the problem, and we'll see how this goes forward. Another aspect to this is when we are speaking of all, this is consumer protection, consumer being at the center of it all. Bringing in Mr. Rao right now to discuss the e-commerce rules and the flag that it is receiving from our e-commerce players. I believe one of the crucial points have been that our e-commerce partners feel that they're being unfairly scrutinized, and there are some very disturbing elements in the draft rules, which I would request Mr. Rao to take us through.
Yeah, thank you, Ashima. Basically, what I'm taking up are the proposed amendments to the consumer protection e-commerce rules, which were proposed in June, and they are open for suggestions to the government. And I think now the time has been extended. It's available till July 21st, where representations can be made to the government for any changes. Now, basically, if you look at the original e-commerce guidelines rules which came last year, they have been promulgated under the Consumer Protection Act. And the purpose was to prevent unfair trade practice by e-commerce entities. Now, there was a definition of e-commerce entity which was there in the original rules. Now, the original definition says it is any person who owns, operates, or manages a digital or electronic platform for electronic commerce. What the proposed amendments have sought to do is, they are extending it to entities engaged by e-commerce for fulfillment of orders. That is number one. Number two, it also includes a related party as defined under the Companies Act 2013. Now the issue is, the definition of an e-commerce entity has been expanded to include everybody who's in the chain of transactions leading right up to delivery of goods to the consumer. Secondly, a related party has also been included as part of the e-commerce entity. Going forward, when you look at the other amendments, one gets the impression that anybody who's not even in the chain of transaction, now a related party under the Companies Act could be a director. It could be an entity in which the director is also a director or a partner. So does that third party also become an e-commerce entity? By definition, yes. Similarly, a logistics entity or a person who's actually involved in delivering the goods to the customer, plus a person probably who's developing a software which assists in fulfillment of the order, he also would become an e-commerce entity. Now, having said that, the proposed amendments further cast an obligation on e-commerce entities to do certain things. One of the things is to appoint a nodal officer, a compliance officer, and a grievance officer. Now, if the definition includes so many entities going beyond the chain of transactions, as per the proposed amendments, each one of these entities falling within the definition of related party or falling within the definition of an entity engaged in the process of fulfillment of orders would also be required to appoint all these entities, which is absolutely unnecessary as they do not participate in the chain of transactions. So that was one basic issue. Second thing is the flash sale. Now, Nilambara has already taken up the flash sale issue and the CCI investigating the deep discounts that have been given. Now, there is a clarification. Let's examine the definition of flash sale under the proposed amendments. It says, provided the sales are organized by fraudulently intercepting the ordinary course of business using technological means with an intent to enable only specified sellers or group of sellers. So the interesting elements are, one is fraud. Secondly, you are intercepting the ordinary course of business using technological means, which means playing around with the algorithms. Now, everybody had an issue on this. I believe some of the e-commerce entities have made a representation, and probably some of the industry chambers are also preparing some representations, whereby the concern has been that by using the word fraud, are you attributing any criminal intent? And would there be some investigation or a complaint and prosecution under the Indian Penal Code? It's a gray area, there's no clarity. But the ministry has come out with a clarification. The ministry says a flash sale is where the seller selling on the platform. Now it says seller selling on the platform does not carry any inventory or order fulfillment capabilities, but merely places a back-to-back order with another seller controlled by the platform. Now the ministry clarification says that this will only constitute a flash sale. When you say a back-to-back order with another seller controlled by platform, a marketplace platform is not supposed to control any seller or its inventory. The only situation I can envisage here is, and some of the e-commerce entities probably are doing it, they have a group company which is doing B2B, which is an inventory e-commerce platform. Now a B2B inventory sells it to a third-party seller, who then sells it to a seller on the platform. Now, would that constitute a flash sale? Would that be subject to any action by either the ministry or the controlling? There is a controlling authority also prescribed under the rules. Now, there is no clarity here. The expression seller is defined under the rules to mean a product seller under the Consumer Protection Act. It also includes a service provider. So who all would fall within the ambit of the flash sale is one issue. Second issue is, assuming this definition is finally put into the amended guidelines, will it impact the CCI investigation? Would CCI then not only look at deep discounts, but also look that, okay, are they fulfilling these criteria under the e-commerce guidelines, to then decide whether there is misuse of dominant position? Probably on that, Nilambara can throw some light. Now, going forward, coming back to the appointment of the nodal officer, compliance officer, and grievance officer, which is made mandatory for the e-commerce entity, assuming that it is limited only to the e-commerce platform. Under the information technology intermediary rules, an online market platform is an intermediary which is mandated to appoint a nodal officer, compliance officer, and a grievance officer. Now, when this compliance is already mandated there, what is the need for again mandating an appointment under the amended rules? That is another issue which comes to fore. Finally, if you look at the impact, the e-commerce rules are only supposed to link to unfair trade practice under the Consumer Protection Act. When you look at all the obligations of the e-commerce entity as proposed under the rules, end of the day, you see that there are only two offenses that they could commit under the Consumer Protection Act. One is under Section 88, which is non-compliance of direction of any central authority, or under Section 89, which is false or misleading advertisements. When you look at compliance of direction of the central authority, it could be a direction to the e-commerce platform for recalling of any goods or services, or reimbursement of prices, or discontinuance of a practice, or discontinuation or modification of an advertisement. Non-adherence to this would then amount to an offense under the Consumer Protection Act. When it comes to false or misleading advertisements, the unfair trade practice definition clearly sets out what are the situations which could lead to a false or misleading advertisement. So these are some of the gray areas that would need clarification. And I guess the industry would be making a representation to the government shortly. That is all I have on this.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. We await, what the rules finally come out to be. Now, in a round of, summation, we would request, starting from Mr. Rao. In a nutshell, Mr. Rao, what would be your one advice to the in-house counsel and company law departments about their do's and don'ts when it comes to these rules? What should be they careful about?
See, what I would say is that assume that all these guidelines apply exclusively to an e-commerce platform. Then take care that all the information which a seller is required to portray with respect to the goods, including the country of origin, are displayed on the website of the portal of the e-commerce entity. Second thing is, have some control over the logistics or everybody who falls into the chain, because assuming that the movement is from the seller to the customer, yet the rules make it mandatory for there is a fallback liability under the rules, which says that the e-commerce platform is responsible if the customer doesn't get the goods. So they should ensure that there is some sort of a control and follow-up on the entire transaction from the time the order is placed. Second thing is, assuming the flash sale is confirmed, then you need to see that you don't fall within the trap of the definition of flash sale unless it undergoes any amendment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rao. So we have